Sure, I gotcha. Of course, not every version of Tetris is a fighting game. If you're just playing single solitary Tetris on the NES or something, that's not a fighting game. However, there's a style of Tetris that absolutely is a fighting game, and that is multiplayer competitive Tetris, specifically with modern rules. Modern rules use something called the bag, which means that pieces are partially predictable. And you usually have to share pieces in a central queue, so the speed at which you drop has to be predictive based on what your opponent is doing, because you need to get the pieces that you need to be able to attack him. If you just clear lines as fast as you can, you'll die. You need to set up Tetrises, T-spins, long chains of clears, but doing that leaves you vulnerable. If the opponent starts poking you, sending you tiny little one-lines, then you could end up topping out. That would be basically the equivalent of aggro. And setting up these big, complicated combo patterns are the equivalent of, like, grapplers. You don't have to clear a whole lot, but if you manage to get one clear without dying, then you're in a good position. Zoners play a denial game. They don't actually focus on their board as much as they focus on the queue and making sure that you don't get the pieces you need. And by forcing you to deal with hard pieces, they force you to make mistakes, and if you make enough mistakes, you die. So even though it's a block puzzle game, it's about when do you attack, when do you defend, when do you poke, what sort of position are you in, what timing do you land your attacks, so on and so forth. There are mix-ups because there's ways that you could build that can make you go for either strategy. There's lots of elements of outthinking your opponent. A match of competitive Tetris feels a lot more like a match of Street Fighter to me than it does a single-player game of Tetris. Now, if you really want to turn up the fun, get a game called Tetris Battle Guided. It has all those things I said before, but it also adds supers. And that adds a whole other level of strategy. You get to pick from a roster of different characters, and each character has different moves that do different things and allow you to pursue different strategies. Level 1 supers usually do something like clear up a little bit of your board, like take a line off the top. Whereas level 4 supers will completely screw up the opponent somehow. One of them just blows random holes in the opponent's board, the other turns the whole opponent's board into stone, which needs to be cleared 3 times instead of 1. And then you have to say, oh, do I save up my bar for this big super that might kill the opponent? But then are they going to use 4 level 1s to end up clearing my big super that I just did? And again, there are character archetypes. More defensive characters will have level 1s that are like clear multiple lines at once, where more offensive characters will send 1 or 2 lines from you to the opponent. It's super fun, it's super strategic, everyone should give it a try, and it is totally a fighting game.